Welcome to the dark side of history. Here are 7 punishments in human history. So bizarre, so cruel, and so creatively awful, they make modern traffic court look like a spa day. We're starting lightish and spiraling straight into psychological ruin. Number 7, gibbeting, aka human bird feeders. Let's start with something that's not about pain, but about shame and vultures. Gibbeting was the art of locking someone in a human-sized bird cage made of iron and hanging them from a public post, tree, or gallows like a twisted wind chime. Sometimes the criminal was already dead. Sometimes they were very much alive. Guess which one was worse? The cage was intentionally small and tight, so you couldn't sit, lie down, or even slouch without jamming something unpleasant into your ribs. The punishment? Exist. Slowly, publicly, while exposed to weather, insects, and judgmental medieval peasants. Birds would feast, children would point, people would throw things, insults if you were lucky, soup bones if not. One man in England was left up for years until his iron bones creaked in the wind like a ghostly warning to future lawbreakers. This wasn't about justice. This was branding through decomposition. So if you've ever felt awkward standing in a group photo too long, imagine doing it naked in a cage while seagulls eat your face. Number 6, the rack, Stretch Armstrong Torture Edition. You know that moment when you stretch after sitting too long and it feels amazing? Yeah, this is the opposite of that. Let me introduce you to the rack, a medieval tool that took limb day at the gym to a horrifying level. Here's how it worked. You're laid flat on a wooden frame, your ankles are tied to one end, your wrists to the other. A crank begins to turn, slowly pulling you apart. First, your joints dislocate. Then your tendons tear. Eventually, your body stretches so much that ligaments snap like rubber bands, your muscles split, and you gain height the hard way. Historians say it was used to extract confessions. Because nothing says, tell us your secrets, like slowly becoming spaghetti. Fun fact, your spine can technically stretch a little bit. Unfun fact, not like this. By the end, you wouldn't be walking, you wouldn't be crawling, you'd be art. Some victims were so disfigured they didn't die, they were just permanently noodlified and left to live with the consequences. And the worst part, you could hear it. Every pop, every crack, every tendon screaming, we quit. So yes, medieval Europe solved crime by turning people into meat taffy. Number 5, the leather sack because drowning wasn't dramatic enough. This one's from ancient Rome, and it reads like someone lost a bet while writing a punishment manual. It was called poena culeae, Latin for penalty of the sack, and it wasn't just any sack. This was a hand-stitched leather nightmare bag, and it came with company. Here's how it went down. If you were found guilty of parricide, killing your father, mother, or close relative, you didn't just get executed. You got stuffed into a sack with 4 animals. Specifically, a dog, a monkey, a rooster, and a snake. Yes, this is real. No, I'm not making it up. Then, the whole violent zoo in a bag was tossed into a river, where everything panicked, clawed, pecked, bit, and thrashed in a blind rage until you all drowned together. Why these animals? Historians still debate it. Some think it represented chaos, nature's judgment, or symbolic revenge. Others think the Romans just had a dark sense of humor and a lot of extra livestock. Either way, it was less punishment, more mythological fever dream. You don't just die, you die inside a leather bag filled with screaming animals. It's like Noah's Ark if it had been directed by Quentin Tarantino. Number 4, the rat dungeon. Rodents with a plan. Ah yes, the humble rat. Resourceful, adaptive, kind of cute if you squint, and in the right torture chamber, absolutely terrifying. This little gem of punishment was simple. A metal bucket was placed open side down on your stomach. Inside, a very real, very hungry rat. Then, the torturer would start heating the outside of the bucket. Now here's what they knew would happen. Rats panic under heat. Rats dig when cornered. Rats don't care what they're digging through, so the rat's only escape route? Downward. Into you. Claws first, teeth next. Organs? Don't worry, it gets there. This wasn't just about death. This was a long, shrieking panic spiral delivered one scratch at a time. And if you're wondering where this was used, try medieval Europe, the Tower of London, and even some 20th century regimes we won't name. But, because when humans can weaponize fear, they really commit. Number 3, crushed by elephant, trained executioners with tusks. All right, let's scale things up, literally. In ancient India and Southeast Asia, kings didn't just rule with armies, they ruled with elephants. Massive trained elephants who could kill a person with a flick of their foot. And some were trained specifically for executions. Yep, these elephants were taught to step gently or violently, depending on the ruler's mood. Some could crush skulls instantly. Others were trained to drag it out, stepping on limbs first, watching the crowd, then finishing the job when the drama had peaked. The victim, public, powerless, probably praying the elephant was in a good mood. And if the king wanted mercy, the elephant would stop mid-stomp just to show who was in charge. This wasn't just death. This was theatrical, state-sponsored flattening. If you've ever been stepped on by a toddler in cleats, imagine that, but 6 tons of royal vengeance. Number 2, impalement, the DIY vertical shish kebab method. Ah, yes, impalement. For when you want to kill someone very slowly, very publicly, and with maximum internal chaos, here's how it worked. A sharpened wooden stake was driven into the victim, usually via the lower torso or back end. Then, and this is the worst part, they weren't stabbed, they were lowered onto it, slowly, carefully, so the stake would miss the vital organs on the way up, to prolong the experience. Gravity did the rest. Hours, even days of unspeakable pain, no quick death, just the rising sensation of wood tearing through your insides. This method was so famously used by Vlad the Impaler, it literally inspired the Dracula legend. And while historians debate just how many people he impaled, it's safe to say it was enough to turn forests into warning signs. Oh, in the final flourish, the stake would often exit through the mouth eventually. So, yeah, that's a full body nope. Number 1, Scaphism, aka death by dairy and insects. And now, the nightmare fuel of all nightmare fuels, Scaphism. Also known as the boats, also known as who the hell came up with this. Used in ancient Persia, this punishment was slow, sticky, and biologically horrific. Here's how it unfolded. 1, the victim was stripped naked and placed between 2 wooden canoes, like a human sandwich, arms, legs, and head sticking out. 2, they were then force-fed a mixture of milk and honey until they couldn't keep it down. 3, after vomiting and defecating themselves, they were coated head to toe in more honey. 4, then the canoes were set adrift in a swamp or left in the sun. What happened next? Insects. Every insect, flies, maggots, beetles, ants, drawn to the honey, the rotting food, the open orifices, and they didn't stop. Not for days, not for weeks. The victim didn't just die, they rotted alive, eaten from the outside and inside. Reportedly, one victim lasted 17 days. That's not a death sentence. That's a slow, festering descent into biological hell. And that's why it earns the top spot. Because while other methods were violent, Scaphism was patient. So there you go, proof that ancient humans were wildly creative in the worst way. If this video made you wince, laugh nervously, or Google how to unlearn history, go ahead and like the video, subscribe for more terrifying trivia, and comment which punishment made you squirm the most. Just remember, no matter how bad your week's been, at least you're not in a honey-coated canoe.